Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance Channel's Romance Roundup, the #1 romance book recs talk show. I am Liz Donatello.
And I'm Libby Kay, author of the sweet romance series Buckeye Falls.
Libby and I are excited to share the 2024 summer romance releases on our to-be-read lists. Watch Romance Roundup on Reader Seeks Romance Channel and subscribe on YouTube. Listen to Romance Roundup on Podbean and all podcast apps. Viewers and listeners can email us at readerseeksromance@yahoo.com. Hello, Libby.
Hello, Liz. How are you?
Doing well. Before we begin, I wanted to mention, just for those listening and watching, that we've selected books releasing between Memorial Day, which is May 27th, and Labor Day, September 2nd. So that's what we consider the summer releases.
Yes.
Do you know necessarily if publishing follows the same schedule? I don't
know if it's like a hard and fast. To me, and technically, actually, I just realized the first one I'm suggesting is 2 days before Memorial Day. So sorry, I'm a little early, but summer's in the title, so I'm going to go with it.
Okay, that works for me. Libby, let the roundup begin.
Giddy up, Liz. Here we go. Okay, so the first one I have is breaking my rules of everything we just said about what summer is, because technically mine comes out a couple days before Memorial Day. So my first book that I'm excited to read this summer is called Malibu Summer, and it is by Libby Gill. And I'm not just going to read this because her name is also Libby. It sounds really fun. It comes out May 21st from Penguin. Libby is actually a nonfiction author, and this is her fiction debut. So I'm anxious to give it a shot and see what it's all about. So it is a standalone romance. It looks from the description that it has a lot of the popular tropes, opposites attract. It's a celebrity romance, and it's also a single dad romance. So the general premise of Malibu Summer is Ivy is a young, bright soil scientist and the inventor of a game-changing irrigation system. If that is not an interesting premise for a heroine's career, I don't know what is.
I agree that it's unique and interesting to probably many. Not to me, because I'm not a gardening, soil, green thumb type of person.
I am not either. In fact, behind me, you can see if you're watching, I have an aloe plant that's about to kick it, and the other one's plastic. So clearly I am not in any way interested in that. I do like it that it's different. And I don't want to make fun of the other jobs because 2 of the books I'm going to recommend have cliche jobs, and I'm just going to go with it because the writers are fabulous. But
well, I'm excited that it's not a baker and it's not a wedding planner. So
exactly.
Bring on the soil.
Bring on the soil scientist. Okay, so our heroine, Ivy, is on top of the world when suddenly and unfortunately her husband is killed in a biking accident. Yes, this is obviously a premise with a cyclist being killed is not usually my cup of tea since my husband is a cyclist. But I think that's also kind of why I'm intrigued is because, I don't know, morbid maybe, but when I read the description, I first went, oh, and then I went, oh.
Just real quick, how did you discover this author?
I found Libby's book by accident because I was doing what authors shouldn't do and checking my reviews on Goodreads. And my finger slipped on the keyboard and it came up with Libby Gill. And I thought, oh, I'm intrigued. And the cover is gorgeous. Like it's the perfect, it looks so beautiful for summer. So I thought, oh, well, let's see what this is about. And then I'm like, like every time I read something, I'm like, well, no, I got to read it because I'm intrigued. So,
so it was like fate.
Yes, it was very random. And so I'm sure that if anyone else named Libby is Googling stuff, I'm sure.
I think your goal this year should really be to read all authors named Libby.
Honestly, there's worse things to do. Okay, so poor Libby, or not poor Libby, she's the author. So poor Ivy, her husband has passed away. She needs to just completely have a change of scenery. So she takes a summer job as a gardener in Malibu. And this is where our hero comes into play. Conrad Reed, which I think is a pretty cool name for a hero, is a wealthy Hollywood has-been, and he recently lost his wife. So we have 2 grieving heroes here, and he is feeling overwhelmed and anxious while raising his stepson. He has this deteriorating estate, which guess what? He needs to hire a gardener for.
Oh,
So,
I like, are
yeah.
these older characters?
Yes, it didn't specify the ages, but they have to at least be, and I'm guessing in their mid 30s to early 40s, because it sounds like the stepson is either a tween or a teen. That's the other reason I was interested in it, is it's, again, there's nothing wrong with younger main characters, but they're just, I feel like there's going to be some real heft to this, if that makes sense.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so long story short, Ivy gets a job helping Conrad, and she starts bonding with his stepson. And so, judging from the description I read, it sounds like that is going to kind of be the thing that gets these two people who are butting heads to step back and realize that there's more here than just, soil and irrigation systems.
I love celebrity
Yes, I do too.
romance.
And I
Yeah.
like it. I don't know. This sounds silly, but I like washed up celebrity books. Like, I like when someone has something to prove. And so there's just a lot. It seems like it's simultaneously a lot going on. They're both grieving.
Yeah.
There's a kid involved. She obviously is trying to figure out what to do with her life, as is he. So I am just, all of those reasons, and truly the cover, and obviously the author's name is Libby, were why I am excited to read Malibu Summer by Libby Gill. And again, that comes out on May 21st.
Exciting, exciting. It sounds like you like your celebrities a little rough. Like, oh, they're a
Yes,
little bit like washed up, a little rough.
I know. The only thing that'll make this book better is if she ends up squatting in the house. Then it'll truly be a romance roundup book pick.
Then you know the two of you were separated at birth.
Yes, exactly. So we are starting in Malibu. Liz, where are you taking us next?
Well, I'm taking you back in time and we're going over the pond to England. I've added to my TBR All's Fair in Love and War by Virginia Heath. It releases May 28th by St. Martin's Griffin. It is book one in Miss Prentice's Proteges series. And I swear it sounds like The Sound of Music, the whole trope with a stern single daddy meets a cheery caretaker.
Yes, please.
Yes. So the difference is that this sea captain is in charge of his nieces and nephews.
Okay.
So that's the twist. This is the description on the back of the book. In the first installment of a Regency romp of a series, a governess who believes in cultivating joy in her charges clashes with the children's uncle who hired her only to find herself falling in love. When Harry Kincaid's flighty older sister decides to join her husband on an Egyptian expedition, Harry, a former naval captain, is left in the lurch, minding her three unruly children and giant mad dog. And let me just say, I would love to read what's going on with that Egyptian expedition.
Is that going to be book two?
Like, I'm kind of invested in that as well, but I don't know how much of that is mentioned throughout the novel. Harry has a busy career and he has no clue how to manage the little rascals or when his sister is actually coming back. So in desperation, he goes to Miss Prentice's school for young ladies, and he is prepared to pay whatever it takes to hire an emergency governess. The governess is Georgie Rowe, and she does not subscribe to the ethos that children should be seen and not heard. She believes childhood should be everything's, hers wasn't, filled with laughter, adventure, and discovery. Georgie and Harry obviously butt heads over their differences, but with time, it seems that in their case, their attraction is undeniable, and all is indeed fair in love and war.
Like you said, this is crazy Sound of Music. I mean, I'm already picturing
Yes.
the actor.
Oh my God, Christopher Plummer.
Christopher Plummer. Oh, hubba hubba. I am automatically picturing him in my mind. And I love the name Georgie. I'm wondering if it's something where like her dad wanted a boy and they had a girl and he named her Georgie, but he didn't.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's going to be a backstory there.
Right. Something like that usually there's a backstory, especially when you're dealing with names of women from back in time. So so I'm excited to read All's Fair in Love and War by Virginia Heath, which releases May 28th. This is a former Navy captain. It has to have been inspired by Sound of Music.
Well, and there's something about the Navy captain that also, when you said it, since it's historical, I was thinking of Persuasion. It just popped into my head.
Yes, maybe Persuasion was what inspired Sound of Music, the whole naval captain.
I never even thought of that. That's a good point. Ooh, I think you just figured something out, Liz.
I think we're going deep. We're doing the deep dive. So, Libby, what else is on your summer releases TBR?
The next one I'm really excited about is The Art of Catching Feelings by Alicia Thomas. That's coming out on June 18th from Berkeley. This is a standalone, and as the title would suggest, it is a sports romance, specifically baseball. And another trope that we kind of talk about here and there is mistaken identities. So I will get to that in a moment.
Yeah, I'm not totally into mistaken identity.
This sounds like it's cute, though. And let me read you the description from the back of the book. So, a professional baseball player and his heckler prove that true love is worth going to bat for in this swoony romance. So, we have Daphne Brink, who doesn't follow baseball, and she considers it America's snooze fest. And I have to say, sometimes I don't disagree with Daphne, but that's a personal opinion.
Oh my God, I hate watching baseball on television.
I like it in person, though. Person
Yes.
is fun because probably it's just because you get to eat soft pretzels and hot dogs, and I don't know.
Oh yeah, you're
And the
high
vibe,
off
like
of carbs and sugar. Yeah, I don't. I
exactly.
like going in person, but at home, to me,
Yeah.
that's the most boring sport
Yes,
to
agreed.
watch on TV.
100%. So we have Daphne, who doesn't like baseball. And so she just got divorced. So that's kind of going to be, I have a feeling, the hurdle that she has to get over. And so she decides to go to the ballpark on a whim. And after one too many ballpark beers, she starts heckling Carolina Battery player Chris Kepler, who quickly proves that there might actually be a little crying in baseball. Horrified by what she did, Daphne reaches out to Chris on social media to apologize, but forgets to identify herself as the heckler. So I think we're getting into our mistaken identity.
Okay.
Chris doesn't usually respond to random fans on social media, but he's grieving and fragile after an emotionally turbulent few months. So when the DM from, quotes, Ducky catches his eye, he impulsively messages Ducky back. Ducky is sweet, funny, and seems to understand him in a way that no one else does. Daphne isn't sure how much longer she can keep lying to Chris, especially as she starts working with the team in real life and their feelings for each other deepen. When he finds out the truth, though, will it be 3 strikes and they're out?
Wait, did you come up with that at the end?
No, I wish I did. I wish I did. It was on the back of the book, on the description. So, but when I read it, I'm like, that's brilliant, and I have to use it. So,
yeah, it is.
As I said, I'm not a baseball fan. However, I loved, and I think I might have mentioned this in one of our earlier episodes. Alicia Thompson's debut of Love in the Time of Serial Killers. Love. Because it combined my 2 passions of true crime and romance novels, which, everybody's got a hobby. The thing that I like about her previous writing is it's original, but it's fun, quirky. Sometimes they're if you have like the stereotypical quirky heroine, you're like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah,
but there's something about how she writes her characters that is more endearing than annoying. And I have a feeling from the description and some of the early reviews I've read for this one, it sounds like there's actually going to be, some, I don't want to say heft like the previous book I just described, but I feel like there's going to be something going on here, besides just a little bit of baseball. So I am going to say, Liz, that I'm calling baseball the new sport of the moment, because between this and I haven't read it yet, but I just picked up The Prospects by KT Hoffman.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's getting a lot of positive reviews.
It is.
And there's a bunch of other ones coming out. I just feel like maybe it's just because summer's coming, but I feel like I'm seeing so much baseball right now. I feel like this is going to be something. So I don't know, maybe not. Maybe Alicia's a trendsetter, but either way, I am very curious and excited to read The Art of Catching Feelings by Alicia Thompson, and it comes out June 18th. So I took us to the U.S. for baseball. Where are you taking us next, Liz?
I'm taking you to Colorado. I believe it's Colorado.
I'll take it. I believe it's Colorado.
I think so. I'm not prepared with the location, with the settings of my books.
I'll stop asking.
Maybe you should. I added to my TBR a book that was mentioned by Dana and Caroline from Forever Publishing. It is Finding Mr. Right by Kelly Armstrong. Finding Mr. Right releases June 25th by Forever.
Oh, yes, that sounds so. Why is that making it to your top list of must reads?
Oh, you know why, because I mentioned it in the last episode. Well, first of all, I have read Kelly before, and I hadn't realized that when we discussed Kelly in the last episode, but I mentioned Kelly's time travel romance A Stitch in Time, a Victorian time travel in a previous episode. And I really, loved it. And I know that Kelly writes sci-fi and time travel, and she writes, I believe, romantic suspense. So this is her first rom-com. So because I enjoyed Kelly's work, I am excited to see how she does with a rom-com. Now, the other reason is because the premise sounds just like the television show from the 80s, Remington Steele, starring Stephanie Zimbalist and Pierce Brosnan.
Who is a dreamboat.
The man has aged well.
Oh my gosh, like George Clooney well.
This is what Finding Mr. Right, WRITE, is about. And I love a good pun, let's face it.
Yes, everybody loves a pun.
Number 1 New York Times bestselling author Kelly Armstrong delivers a fun romantic comedy about a woman writing under a male pseudonym and the man she hires to play the role in public. When Daphne poses as a male author, an outdoorsy hunk of masculinity, it results in a bidding war for her new book. She gets a huge book deal and the kind of fame every author dreams of. But now she's in trouble because she needs to convince the world that Zane Remington, I'm sure it was inspired by Remington Steele, actually exists by hiring an actor. The only thing is that Chris Stanton is not an actor, he's an accountant. Still, he's mostly certain he can pose as some overly macho bro author. But when the media descend on Daphne's gorgeous remote home in the Yukon, it's not enough for Chris to just be the face of Zane Remington. He'll have to become him. All while hilariously balancing the terrifying dangers of the wilderness, a massive femme fandom, and a serious crush on Daphne.
I like that it sounds like he falls first.
It does sound like he falls first. And the other thing is that this is set in the Yukon. So where is that? Is Colorado correct? We just consulted off camera a few minutes ago, and that's actually in Alaska. So thank you, research librarian Libby K.
Yes, you're welcome.
As the hype circus gets more out of control, it's just a matter of time before someone discovers their little right lie.
Oh, I love it. Oh,
that is not my pun. That's
why are these puns so good?
These puns are fantastic. So Finding Mr. Right by Kelly Armstrong releases on June 25th by Forever, and it is on my TBR.
I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. And I think I'm going to add it to mine as well, because I'm a sucker. I love books about books. I love books about authors, and I love Remington Steele.
You must be Remington Steele.
Yes, I really believe I am.
If you don't mind, I'm going to follow your lead, and my next pick is coming out the same day, and it's also about an author.
I think I know which book this is, because this might be the book I also have down here. I won't have to mention it if you talk about it.
Well, we can talk about it together, Liz.
What do you have for us, Libby?
All right. I have a novel love story by Ashley Poston. I don't know.
The debate carries on, because every time we mention Ashley's last name, we always say, is it Poston? Is it Poston? I would say go with what feels right to you.
Poston feels right, but that's
go for it.
So I'm going to say it's Ashley Poston, and this comes out from Berkeley on June 25th. It is a standalone. It is her third book. And the main trope that seems to be described in all of the blurbs is Grumpy Sunshine. So my bad. She's a literature professor, not an author. Apparently, I need more caffeine today.
But author and literary professor, I think, is pretty close.
I mean, same church, different pew. I'm gonna allow it. So the tagline for this book that is not about an author is: a professor of literature finds herself caught up in a world of fiction, literally. So here's my interpretation of the blurb of the book. Eileen loves to get lost in a good happily ever after. Frankly, who doesn't? The fictional kind, anyway, because at least imaginary men don't leave you at the altar. She feels safe in a book and at home, which might be why she's so set on getting her annual book club retreat this year. And she needs good friends, cheap wine, and a good romantic gesture, no matter what. And I'm starting to think that we need to have a boozy book club getaway.
Yes. Oh my God. So I also put this book down. My note was, we need to do this book club retreat.
Yes, immediately, if not sooner. So Eileen is getting ready to go on this little escape, But on her way, her car unexpectedly breaks down and she finds herself stranded in a quaint town that feels like it's right out of a novel. Because it is. Dun, dun, dun.
I love this so much.
I
love
do
this
too.
so
I'm
much.
so excited. So this place can't be real, and yet she's here. And this town is like something out of her favorite romance stories, where the candy shop has honey taffy that's always perfectly sweet. The local bar's burgers are always a little burnt. Wait, why the hell would that be perfect?
You know,
guess
I
it's
did the
like-
same thing.
I don't want my
That's
burgers
why
burnt. The candy store's honey taffy is always perfectly sweet, and the local bar's burgers are always a little burnt, which I'm assuming our author prefers. And
is that a universal truth that we haven't caught on to? Is that
I don't know. I mean,
burgers
I
are
like
the thing?
I like a little pink in my burger, but anyway, that's a story for another day. And the rain always comes in the afternoon, and I have to say, I like a good rainy afternoon. So again, I'm loving
Yeah.
the vibes of this. So it feels like it's perfect. It feels like she's trapped in an author's unfinished story. So Elsie is sure that that's why she is here, is to help this town wrap up its storybook ending. So there is one character that she cannot seem to place, and that is our hero, a grumpy bookstore owner with mint green eyes, irritatingly sexy mouth, and impeccable taste in novels. And he does not want her help in finishing this book, which is a problem because Elsie is beginning to think that this town's happily ever after might be intertwined with her own. So I just think that this sounds like Hallmark on steroids, which again, I mean, is the highest compliment.
Yeah.
I have absolutely adored Poston's other two books, The 7-Year Slip and The Dead Romantics, especially The Dead Romantics. Loved that book. I am incredibly happy to read this. You know, obviously, I have a soft spot for small town romance.
Yes, you do. That's your sweet spot.
Exactly. So, yeah. And the other thing, and this is so dumb to say, I like that a lot of the books coming out this summer that I'm really interested in, most of them are standalones. And I think it's good because right now I don't want the commitment of starting a new series because I'm like, I feel like I'm in the midst of so many other series. So I like that a lot of these are just meant to be, I mean, obviously not one sitting unless you're a fast reader, but I like that a lot of what we're seeing for summer is just a one and done. And I love that.
Yes, I appreciate that as well.
I'm just super excited. And now I'm going to jinx it. She hasn't let me down yet. So I'm excited to read A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston, which comes out on the 25th of June. All right, Liz, what do you got for us next?
I have a book by an author we both love, and I did mention this book previously on our Zoom call-ins episode. But there's actually a formal book description that I found. The last time I described it, it was in the author's words, but I actually have the formal back of the book description. So I wanted to read that. The book is How the Wallflower Wins a Duke by Lucy Morris. Lucy is known for her Viking historical romances, which we love. She is now writing Regency. So this is Lucy's first Regency, and it releases July 23rd by Mills and Boon and Harlequin Historical.
And I already have it pre-ordered. I cannot wait.
Here's the back of the book description. And this is just typical Harlequin, the way it opens. Be tantalized by this spicy Regency romance.
That is very Harlequin, but I like it.
It is. Marina Fletcher's rules. Rule 1, spend life composing music in peace. Do not worry about finding a husband. Rule 2, if must worry about finding a husband, marry for love only or commit to becoming a spinster. Rule 3, resist urge to spend time with the sinfully sexy Duke of Framlingham, who clearly does not believe in love. Rule 4, never ever say yes to said Duke's wicked plan for us to silence society's expectations with a fake engagement. But what happens when this wallflower breaks every single rule?
Oh, I'm so excited. Oh my God.
So we are both excited to read How the Wallflower Wins a Duke by Lucy Morris, which releases on July 23rd.
Like, I don't even have anything else to say other than I am circling July 23rd.
Yeah.
And I am. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yeah. And it's a delightful book cover too.
Well,
Really
and it's
delightful.
it seems like just enough of a twist on a familiar trope And her writing, I've devoured all of her Viking series with Harlequin and just
Yeah.
love them.
Yeah.
They're just, so good.
Lucy's a very emotional writer. Like the
Mhm.
emotions on the page are just
Authentic.
compelling. Yeah. Yeah. Authentic and compelling to read. Yeah. Are you in July now?
I'm still in July, and I'm going to talk about one that we did talk about when we had the Forever crew on. This is Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto, out with Forever on July 16th. As you probably know from last week's episode and me freaking out about Forget Me Not, freaking loved that book. And and this is going to sound funny, and I love when you like a book so much and you're like, I don't really know why I liked it, but I loved it. And the stuff about the book that usually would have bothered me, because there were a lot of cliches, but they were done so well. Like, yes, we had an event planner, but it wasn't annoying how it was done. And I liked the tension with that book. It was so sexy and so tender. And again, the emotions leapt off the page. So I am hoping to see the same type of vibes in Not Another Love Song. It is a standalone, and it is a rivals to lovers. And the tagline is two string players fight their attraction for each other as they compete for center stage in this spicy and emotional romance from Julie Soto. I am so excited because it sounds like the steamy parts are also going to be incorporated with the music parts, which sounds really funny. But I got the vibe from the Forever crew that this is very hot, and I am
Yes.
here for it. The general premise is Gwen, who is a professional yet self-taught violinist. She has a quiet passion that never quite explodes with the emotion of some of her peers. Our hero, Xander, is the exact opposite. He is a cellist and a rock star, and he's all about big emotion. And he's also a big guy at 6'4", which, as someone who's married to a 6'4" gentleman, I think is pretty fabulous. And he has an attitude, I love how this is described, an attitude that borders on jerkitude. I don't know why that just is silly to me.
Jerkitude, I would not guess would be in this book description.
Yes, but there it is. You heard it here first. So, so not only did it take Xander a year to notice that he and Gwen both play in the Manhattan Pops, but he also seems to have a perfect cutting and, quite frankly, it sounds like bordering on rude criticism of her technique. So when Gwen is offered the role of first chair in the orchestra, something that Xander has secretly coveted for years, their existing hostility goes up a notch. Yet despite her best efforts, Gwen cannot ignore the sizzling chemistry between them. I am so excited for this because one of the things I really loved about Forget Me Not was, obviously this is not a second chance, Forget Me Not was, but the way that Soto writes the tension and the angst, it was perfect. It was not too heavy. It wasn't too silly. Because sometimes you read these angsty books and you're like, oh my God, get over yourselves. But I love her writing style. So I am super excited to see how she does this. I like that they're musicians, and it's not, like I read, and again, I'm not criticizing it because I like it, but I like that it's not like a traditional rock star romance, that this is more, with a classical theme. And again, they said there was a sex scene involving a cello, which sounds weird, but I'm totally on board with.
Yeah, I think it sounds fantastic. I
Yeah.
can't wait. I want to
know.
read just that scene.
I know. I'll let you borrow my copy because I've already pre-ordered it. So that was Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto, and that comes out on July 16th. And I have a feeling it is going to be a delightfully spicy addition to your summer.
So you've mentioned on many an episode your love of angst in romance, and I wanted to know how you define it, because I've heard angst mentioned by different people, and I feel like it's subjective. So what's the angst that you enjoy?
I love when it's dual point of view and why they're acting, like in her first one, I can't remember the characters' names, but I love how the hero, we knew exactly why he was acting the way he was. And I love watching these people try to figure out their own feelings and how to interact and how to either, just go with it and get together. There's something about that inner turmoil that I really like. And I find that especially when you see book adaptations and films, it's so hard sometimes to do that well. And that's when I feel like you get movies that they add a character because they don't know how to have that moment. But to me, they're not happy, but they don't necessarily know that they're not happy. You know what I mean? That inner turmoil to me And, you know, it's more than just external conflict coming in like, oh, geez, I got fired or I got dumped. It's, you know,
Right.
getting through some type of, it could be a tragedy, but just some personal obstacle, to me is what makes a really good angsty romance, which is
Okay.
funny because I usually hate any type of angst or conflict in real life, but damn it, I love it in a good romance book.
Yeah, isn't that interesting that the opposite of who we are and what we prefer is, I don't know how I began that sentence and how to end it. It's interesting how our reading choices are usually the opposite of who we are in real life and
Yes.
our preferences and what you like to do or how you conduct your life. It's like, oh, I just want to read about someone who's completely different than me.
Yes. And I
That's
find
it.
there's
Yeah.
almost something not comforting, but there is something almost comforting about reading about that sounds awful. I like reading about people going through hard times, but there's something I guess that's like it's an escape and you're kind of like, oh, I'm not alone that I'm going through something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I love it.
You like to see people challenged in their lives.
And because it's a
Yeah.
romance, you know it's going to have a happy ending. So I guess that's probably why I like it is it's not regular literary fiction where I'm like this person might actually die or something might, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like you know that it's going to get wrapped up in a
Yeah.
nice little bow at the end.
Yeah.
So
It's a controlled environment in which you
yes,
can experience the pain of the real world in fiction, but know everything's going to be okay.
exactly. And I'm here for it.
Yeah.
All right, Liz, what do you got for us next?
Well, it's a book I mentioned before, and it better not let me down. That's what I have to say. The Au Pair Affair by Tessa Bailey releases July 16th by Avon. It is book 2 in her Big Shot series. We did mention on a previous episode our thoughts on Fangirl Down by Tessa Bailey, which is book 1 in the Big Shots series. I was not a fan, but I feel like I might be a fan of The Au Pair Affair. Number 1, New York Times bestselling author Tessa Bailey returns with an all-new sports rom-com about a burly, surly single dad who falls head over a hockey stick for his quirky live-in nanny. And again, I guess the theme for me is nannies all day, every day, I guess.
Yes, I was going to say this is basically a modern governess.
Yeah. So is it just that writers just happen to be writing nannies and, governesses and it's just, oh, what a coincidence. I like it. Or is this a thing? Is this a trend now? Is this
That's
the
true.
thing?
There seems to be a lot. Well, and there, I haven't read it yet, but there is the book, The Nanny by Lana Ferguson. It's everywhere right now. And apparently it's sexy as hell. Because I think the woman had an OnlyFans account and the guy that she nannies for is a fan. And so I don't know. I don't think he knows that when he hires her, but yeah, I haven't read it yet, but everyone I've talked to and everything I've seen online says it is sexy as, well, I won't say I was going to say it is sexy as hell.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm interested in that. That sounds.
I think you need to read it. I'm going to read her other one that has the werewolf in it because I love Bride so much by Ali Hazelwood. I feel like I'm going on like a werewolf kick. So
Oh
I
my
just
God.
requested the audiobook for that. So we'll see. And now I've totally stolen your thunder for Tessa Bailey, but I had to get that
No,
in.
that's okay. It's fine. The Au Pair Affair by Tessa Bailey. Here's the gist. Tallulah is smart, vivacious, and studying to be a marine biologist. She's also 26 and broke. So when Burgess, a battle-scarred hockey veteran and single dad, offers her a job as his live-in nanny, she jumps at the opportunity to get paid while living in a fancy neighborhood and being around Lissa, his cool but introverted tween. Now, Burgess needs to get back on the dating scene, and adventurous Tallulah is just the girl to show him how. But as boundaries are slowly crossed and Burgess finds himself pulled between his daughter, who wants her parents back together, and his insane chemistry with Tallulah, a huge rift is formed, and Tallulah does the right thing, breaks her own heart, and walks away. Why are we getting so much out of this book description?
That's basically the whole plot.
Basically, Burgess and Tallulah are conflicted. I totally expect it to be super steamy. I also like the whole he's getting back into dating and she's going to help him. So it's almost like instead of like kissing lessons, maybe dating lessons or relationship lessons, which I also really like that trope. I don't see it that much lately. So, so that's The Au Pair Affair by Tessa Bailey, releases July 16th. I really lost steam in that book description. It was too much. I believe you have one more, Libby?
I have one more.
Okay.
And it is by another favorite author that I discovered last year, as in her first book came out last year. This is The X-Vows by Jessica Joyce. She's writing with Berkeley again, and this comes out on July 16th. This is another standalone. And again, loving that everything I want to read is a standalone. And it is a second chance romance, which we all know is one of my favorites. So the tagline for this one is estranged exes must stick close together to save their best friend's wedding after a string of disasters in this swoony and steamy second chance romance. So, I love a good swoony, steamy book. So,
yeah. And I know you like Jessica Joyce. I do remember how much you loved You with a View.
You with a View was it's upsettingly good. So I won't waste any more time saying how much I loved it because you should go and watch.
Good. I think that's a great description.
The writing is amazing. Oh my God. Even if her characters in this one are half as good as the two in You with the View, there was just something about the emotion and their connection and the misunderstandings were handled well, if that makes sense. It wasn't the usual, like, oh, I just forgot to tell you. There was really a lot of grief and feelings behind it. I'm just so excited that it's second chance because I have a feeling that the emotions are going to be high and it's going to be fantastic. Let me give you the general premise. We have Georgia, who lives by her lists, none more so than the one about her ex, Eli. It's full of ironclad do's and don'ts that have to be followed since she returned to the Bay Area after their cataclysmic, I love that word, breakup 5 years before. With the wedding of their mutual best friend, Adam, looming, and they are stepping into their roles as best woman and best man, Georgia has never needed her gumption to stick to her list more. She refuses to threaten their tight-knit friend group with her messy and still very present feelings. The rules on the list will keep her cool, calm, and compartmentalized. What's not on her list? Eli arriving from New York with a new rule-breaking attitude, or the all-inclusive venue burning to the ground, leaving the bride and groom in dire straits. Nor does she anticipate Adam asking her and Eli to help him make a miracle happen together. So these two are thrown together for wedding planning. I love that there's a past. I love that we go in knowing that Georgia still has these feelings. So we already know that this is going to be fantastic. So I don't know. There's not much more to say because I just know that this is going to be fabulous. I loved the road trip and journey in You with a View. So the fact that they're going to have to change venues and they're thrown into all this planning together, I'm hoping to get similar vibes. So I'm like ridiculously excited to read The X-Vows by Jessica Joyce, which comes out on July 16th.
While I totally trust your judgment, I'm sure it's going to be great. I personally, as soon as I read wedding in the book description, I go dead inside and I say next. Because I feel as if I've read so many weddings, like I can't imagine anything being so different and unique that I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I'm just kind of sick of weddings and people getting together by planning weddings, helping with weddings, throwing, bachelor parties, bachelorette parties. That's just my personal preference, but I'm sure that Jessica writes really well.
Yes.
I can't bring myself to read any books with wedding stuff.
I have devastating news, Liz.
Oh my God. Please, are you going to tell me that the book I'm looking forward to reading, Forever to Fall by Libby K, has a wedding in it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That has to be the worst segue into me saying what's in my TBR.
It is the best segue I've ever heard in my life. And I am so happy right now.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's my segue into saying how excited I am, maybe was, to read Forever to Fall, book 5 in Libby K's Buckeye Falls series. It releases August 20th by Inkspell Publishing. I know that the book is about Mallory, who's Evan's sister, right?
Yes.
Evan's. Okay. And I know that it's a brother's best friend trope. I did not know there was a wedding involved. Could you actually
Yes.
tell me about, because there's no book
Yes.
description online.
And I'm going to give you the book description. Okay, so wedding bells are ringing in Buckeye Falls, but the sister of the groom is conflicted. Nearly 20 years ago, Mallory Lawson married her childhood sweetheart Beckett in a pretend wedding on his family's farm. She treasures not only the memories, but the ring he put on her finger. The trouble now, her brother Evan wants to put that family heirloom on his fiance's finger. Mallory adores Cece, who doesn't? But she harbored dreams of Beckett returning and sliding that ring back on her finger. Enter Beckett Fox. He is at a crossroads. After losing his grandfather, he's listless and fearful of coming back to the family farm. There's too many memories, and most of them are tied up in the love of his life, Mallory. He doesn't even know if she remembers that fateful day when they were kids, playing make-believe under the family apple orchards, but he does. Now he's back in Buckeye Falls and hoping to find peace on the family farm with Mallory by his side. When the wedding plans kick into high gear, Beckett and Mallory are thrust together as the maid of honor and the best man. And the more time they spend together, the harder it is to ignore the sparks that are still between them. With a little help of the residents of Buckeye Falls, these two will finally find their happily ever after, and this time it's forever.
Oh, okay. Yours is the only book I will read involving a wedding. Tropes written in your capable hands, I enjoy. So,
Well, thank you.
and if you're going to write a wedding, it's not going to be full of wedding nonsense.
No, and the wedding isn't even like it's just a little bit of the story. There's other stuff going on, but
Okay.
When we decided that was the blurb, and then you're saying everything that's in the blurb, I'm like, oh hell.
Boy, this was some episode.
We had some highs, we had some lows, but we had a good time. No, I'm kidding. It's totally fine, and no, it'll be great.
But that just now that's a testament. Now knowing that I still want to read your book is a testament to your skill and how much I enjoy your writing. Is that even though I very vehemently said I'm against these wedding books, I am still excited to read your book because I love the town of Buckeye Falls. I love the characters. I need to connect with them once again, and I shall on August 20th.
Yes.
When it releases by Inkspell Publishing.
Yes, thank you. Cover reveal coming soon.
And I believe that's it, correct? So I think
that's enough.
I think we've had enough, right? Okay. And that's our roundup. Watch Romance Roundup on Reader Seeks Romance channel and subscribe on YouTube. Listen to Romance Roundup on Podbean and all podcast apps. Thanks for joining us, romance readers.
Happy reading, everyone.